George Washington, meet your army. King George was hoping to smack the rebels with a smart blow, but he was about to be disappointed. Before sunrise on the morning of May 10th, 1775, a Vermont patriot named Ethan Allen stepped into a boat on Lake Champlain. Allen and his men pushed out into the cold, choppy water and began silently rowing across the lake. The second blow of the American Revolution was about to be delivered, and not by the British. Here comes Ethan Allen. This story begins in early May 1775 when a Connecticut lawyer named Noah Phelps stopped shaving. Once he had a nice little beard going, he disguised himself as a poor peddler, a guy who sells pots and tools door to door. Then he walked right up to the gates of Fort Ticonderoga, a British fort in northern New York. The British soldiers asked the sloppy-looking peddler what he wanted. Phelps said he needed a shave. Could the fort's barber help him out? The soldiers let Phelps into the fort. While Phelps sat still in the barber's chair, his eyes spied the condition of the fort. Crumbling walls, bored soldiers. It was just as he had hoped. Fort Ty, as the locals called it, was not prepared for an attack. Noah Phelps passed the information on to the Green Mountain Boys, a group of patriot farmers from the Green Mountains of Vermont. The boys were led by Ethan Allen. Standing 6'6", with a furious temper, Allen was not the kind of guy you would want to have as an enemy. He was known to beat up two men at once by lifting them off the ground and banging them together. But on the morning of May 10th, Ethan Allen was perfectly calm. He and about 80 of the boys rowed across Lake Champlain, reaching the New York side of the lake just before sunrise. There, in front of them, was their target, Fort Ticonderoga. One British soldier sat guarding the fort's gates. Or, he was supposed to be guarding the gates. Technically, he was asleep. Party at Fort Ty. What woke the guard that morning? Probably it was the sound of 83 large Americans charging toward him, whooping and screaming like wild animals. The sleepy soldier stood up, lifted his gun, fired once, threw the gun on the ground, and ran into the fort, leaving the gates open behind him. Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys were right on his heels. Inside the fort, a British officer named Jocelyn Feltham sat up suddenly in bed. I was awakened by a number of shrieks, he explained. I jumped up. I ran undressed to knock at Captain de la Place's door. Captain de la Place was the commander of the fort, but he was still asleep. So Lieutenant Feltham went back to his room, grabbed some clothes, and stepped out into the hall. And next thing he knew, he was standing face to face with a very excited giant named Ethan Allen. Allen was knocking on Della Place's door and shouting things like, "Come out of there, you old rat!" Lieutenant Feltham tried to appear calm and in control, which is hard to do when you have your pants in your hand. He demanded to know by what authority Ethan Allen was attacking this British fort. Allen roared back, "In the name of the great Jehovah and the Continental Congress." Ethan Allen. This was a cool-sounding answer, and it later became famous. But at the time, Lieutenant Feltham just seemed confused. He began to speak again, Allen later wrote, but I interrupted him and with my drawn sword over his head again demanded an immediate surrender. The sword over the head did the trick. Feltham surrendered Fort Ticonderoga to the Americans. Within minutes, the Green Mountain Boys found 90 gallons of rum in the fort's cellar. The party lasted 3 days. More important, Ethan Allen and the boys had captured more than 100 British cannons. If the Americans were really going to fight a war with Britain, they would need those big guns.